Okay, hello folks. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to the folks that might be watching this in the future. This is Abundant Housing LA, and we are here with our Women's History Month event. And so I want to introduce myself. I'm Joshua Gonzalez, Abundant Housing LA's Education Director. And as we're talking about housing and housing related topics, we always want to do a land acknowledgement. And so that goes like this. Abundant Housing LA recognizes and acknowledges the first people of this ancestral and unceded territory. It belonged to the Tongva Gabrielino people, and the land is now occupied by State Senate District 26 and City Council District 1, specifically where I am in the Pico Union neighborhood. We acknowledge and honor Indigenous folks, elders past and present, and their descendants, and we recognize that the Tongva peoples are still here, and we are committed to lifting up their stories, culture, and community. The first peoples of this nation ensured every member of the community had a home, and so we share a fundamental human responsibility to ensure that as the people who came after, we can say the same. What does Abundant Housing LA do? Well, our mission is to address the upstream causes of the housing crisis and housing shortage, and build a movement for structural change so that LA becomes a place of abundant housing. Why is abundant housing the concept, not like the first part of our organization's name, but why is that important? Well, environmental sustainability is one thing. Imagine if people could live near where they work and could walk, bike, and access transit. It would mean less sprawl and destruction of the environment, more energy efficient buildings, and fewer greenhouse gas emissions. Another thing is it would help address racial and economic inequality. White supremacy created exclusionary single-family zoning and then sold it to the public as the American dream. More housing density means more diversity and neighbors, which is a good thing. So we seek to achieve abundant housing through advocacy, policy, and education to shift LA culture around housing. And we hope that you'll be a part of this effort. So, in honor of Women's History Month, we are bringing together some trailblazing, change-making women in the housing space to hear about their experiences and for us to be able to learn how we can properly produce more housing, attack this issue of the housing crisis, and make sure we're doing so in an equitable way. Our moderator tonight is Abundant Housing LA board member, Dulce Vasquez. Dulce, if you'd like to take it, please do.
Thank you, Josh. Good evening, everyone, or morning if you are watching this after the fact. I'm Dulce Vasquez, former candidate for Los Angeles City Council District 9 and currently a board member for the C3 education portion of Abundant Housing Los Angeles. I'm so honored to moderate tonight's panel. We have some really incredible women, so I'm really excited for this conversation, which should last about an hour. So we'll get to hear all aspects of the way that we advocate as women, the way that we move throughout the space, the different experiences that we have as females, navigating different government entities, different housing elements, just the different ways that women experience our world. If I tried reading their bios, I would not do them justice. So I want to give 3 minutes to my panelists here to introduce themselves with whatever description they come to the table with tonight about the work that they do, and then also add. Let me leave that there, and I'll ask a follow-up question. So I'm going to go around the screen in the order that they appear on my screen. So Suzette, tell us about yourself. Oh, you're muted.
I have a request.
Thank you. So sorry. What's that?
Oh, wait, my turn.
Okay. Yeah, where was I? Hello. Thank you so much. And good to be in space with y'all, Dulce, Tiffany, and Kim. My name is Suzette Shaw, and I'm a Skid Row resident. I write, talk, and advocate Skid Row from a woman's perspective. Skid Row is where I was displaced to just over a decade ago. My trials really fueled my my advocacy, and my advocacy was why I have a national platform today. I'm the National Alliance in Homelessness representative for Los Angeles. I'm vice chair of the Continuum of Care Board, where HUD Dollars comes into Los Angeles. And I sit on the county's Racial Equity Steering Committee, amongst other things. Happy to be in space with y'all. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Suzette. Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim Reeder, and I'm here in Los Angeles. I'm newly housed, and I'm new in the advocacy space in terms of housing. I was actually unhoused for about 2.5 years and started advocating for myself, for my own survival from the street. I've joined Abundant Housing LA, and I serve on their education committee. I was also in the first cohort of their pro housing advocacy certificate program. I am a member of the Alliance. I'm a member of the Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment, and I'm a proponent of housing as a human right in California.
Thank you so much, Kim. Tiffany?
Hi there. So I'm one of those trailblazers, like the other woman on the panel, right?
Yes.
I consider myself a systems reform champion, and my focuses are elevating people with lived experience to leadership, also domestic violence survivorship, oversight and accountability of the homelessness response system, mental health stigma reduction, alternatives to incarceration, and equity, especially lifting up expertise as equity versus education. Also do consulting, gospel rap. I'm the coordinator for Losses Lived Experience Advisory Board. I am a published journalist, and I consider myself a powerful force in the community, kindling change in hearts, minds, and policies. I'm inspired by love, the Lord, my husband, nature, and traveling.
My goodness, you are incredible. Thank you so much, Tiffany. So let's get into this. Some of you mentioned a little bit what brought you into the housing advocacy space. Can you expand on that a little bit in 3 minutes? And I think I want to start with Kim, just because you mentioned in your description that you recently found housing.
I did. I was unhoused for 2.5 years, from living in a motel to a car, lost the car, to the street. I was on the street for a while, into a congregate shelter and then a non-congregate shelter. And I recently found housing with Community Corp, affordable housing, which is subsidized housing in Santa Monica. So I signed my lease in January, took occupancy at the end of that month. So I'm just settling in. And that's how I got here.
I can't find my clapping emojis. I can't find any of the emojis on this webinar setup. But thank you so much, Kim, for sharing your story. Tiffany, do you want to go next?
Will you repeat the question, please?
To expand a little bit on sort of what made you a pro-housing advocate.
My own experience, and I would say just I'm just trying to be sure I understand. So is this I got to be clear. Are you asking me why did I start advocating, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Like how did you come into pro-housing advocacy?
Sorry. So I have to take it back to Trayvon Martin and them.
You can go as deep as you want.
Trayvon Martin and all the police brutality, the following year too, Philando Castile and all of these people. And just my soul was just torn. I was always crying on my bed, mad and all kind of stuff, right? So I asked somebody, what can I do besides protest and cry on my bed? And so she told me to go to It was Mark Ridley Thomas at the time over Supervisorial District 2, and I'm a SPA 6 resident. I was then and I am now. And there was a Public Safety and Justice Committee meeting. When I went to sign up for it, I saw the Mental Health Committee meeting. I'm like, well, that's really why I'm on this website. So I started doing that. And this is as somebody I had not secured permanent supportive housing yet. And so homelessness was covered a lot under that mental health umbrella for a while on that committee. And then just eventually branching out into doing that, plus having my own experiences that I wanted to speak to. Yes, keep doing this, and you need to stop doing that. And so I found my voice during the time that I was not permanently housed through another avenue. And that's how I got started.
I love that. For those of you watching, if you don't know what SPA 6 is, service provider areas, it's how the county splits up the different regions throughout the Los Angeles County. As a quick follow-up, someone asked in the chat, congregate versus non-congregate housing. Would someone like to answer that?
Oh, I brought that up. I was in congregate housing, which means a shelter where you're housed in the same space with many other people. So we had different cubicles. And then non-congregate is Los Angeles has been buying different motels, the city. And so non-congregate is when you have your own room. That's the difference between the two.
Thank you, Kim. Suzette, what brought you into this space?
Thank you. Well, I oftentimes say that I did not come to Skid Row to be an advocate, but I found my voice here. So I was living in $1 million neighborhood. I had been living single life, middle class life. And long story short, I lost job, and then subsequently over time, I lost everything. And literally was displaced here in Los Angeles after living in my SUV in 117-degree weather back home in Arizona. So I was at a women's safe house prior to coming to Skid Row, and in the dining hall, these women would talk about a place called Skid Row, and it literally gave me nightmares, the stories that they would tell. And so I remember pleading to my blonde, blue-eyed, white Jewish caseworker, please do not send me there. I don't belong there. And she said, well, you have to go there. That's where you can get resources. And there was also this direct and indirect implied that I was not, that I was a lost case, basically, like there was no hope for me. Like literally it was said to me, like, I don't know if there's hope for you. And it was really, it struck me, that, because I was thinking, in my head, I'm a former certified caseworker with the state of Arizona TANF welfare program. And again, I used to lead my own programs. And I was also the face of my hometown's annual fair housing event. So I literally sat around the table with people in charge of housing from a city, county, and state, federal level. They were getting ready to put my face on billboards. And yet nobody could save me from what I was going through. I lived in, I've been here in LA now for a little over a decade. No one ever has reached out to say, Suzette, are you okay? How can I help you? So then when I end up in a place called Skid Row, December 6, 2012, they forced me out and made me come here. And then they were finding, I was put on the backside of a men's program because they literally did not have beds for women, which really was quite telling. And the men's program that I was put on, it was a veteran men's program at the Russ Hotel. And the dudes will let us know, like, our dollars run this SHIT up in here. So, basically we have first right to everything.
Advantage.
Yeah. And so, and I just found that, really shocking. I didn't understand anything. I didn't qualify for housing. I wasn't quote unquote chronically homeless. I didn't know that there was any definition as it related to homeless. I was just learning what trauma meant. And being shamed and shunned and shut down just for, having the audacity to speak about the trauma that I was feeling, that I was going through. My first caseworker at Department of Mental Health gave me, did a series of diagnoses on me and gave me the sheet back at the front window. And I went and sat in their lobby with that sheet. And there was a word on there, labile, L-A-B-I-L-E. I'd never seen that word before. So I went up to the front window and I asked her, what does this word mean? And with the plexiglass in between us, she leaned down and she said, basically, you're a drama queen. Ooh, it hit me like this. Ouch. I thought, oh, she doesn't like me. She's not going to help me because she doesn't like me. And what I learned in the long run was that that word means basically that you go from one extreme to another. And that is the epitome of a trauma survivor. So at that point in my life, I was in the world alone. I was on suicide watch. And literally, this woman was my safety net to the world. My family didn't even know where I was. I was a missing person during that time period. And, and as I reflect back now, I just think that, this is a Black woman with her master's in social work from an Ivy League school, yet she didn't have the cultural understanding nor the cultural humility to really meet me where I was. Rather, she was looking for me to meet me where she was. And had she been willing to meet me where I was, then, rather than speaking to in a very indignant fashion, she would have said to me very humbly, you've been through a lot and I want to help you. Can you trust me to help you? And she would have done then the due diligence to build that trust, rather than seeing me as someone that she needed to earn that trust of, rather than someone who was assigned to her and she had a right to my personhood. And this really is kind of the framing of how I became an advocate.
And I actually, I want to turn this over to Tiffany, because that cultural competency, that lived experience, that I feel like is coming to the forefront a lot more of how not just caseworkers, social workers, police treat people who are in need. I feel, Tiffany, you're the best to talk about this. Can you tell us how that experience has been in your career and how your advocacy has helped to shape that?
Can you put it in the form of a question? I'm sorry, so I can follow that.
Just based on Suzette's experience of having a caseworker that doesn't understand her, who doesn't sort of understand or is kind enough to understand her situation and treat her appropriately, your job currently at LAHSA, how do you see the work that you're doing impacting those types of situations?
Well, I'm going to come out of LAHSA to answer your question and talk about some interaction with the popos. Okay, so I had the opportunity of being a crisis intervention training under the district attorney's program and representing NAMI as a resource when they interact people who they can tell are having a hard time mentally, or maybe their mental state is thrown off a little bit. But people have rights, so at least they can offer someone a resource on what to do, right? But I use the opportunity, because I was in a DV relationship at the time. So I use the opportunity to talk about mental health and DV and not being treated properly by the police. So one time I was treated properly and one time I was not. And the point is to tap into their empathy and their compassion so that the next person who experiences them would have a different experience. And so this is speaking to FBI agents, LAPD, the 911 operators, sheriff department, and the like. So this is a 2-day mental health training. Very impactful. I believe it ought to be modeled on the homelessness side of things. The advocates ought to be in front of people and speaking, in order to have, even to law enforcement, in order to have an impact on their compassion and empathy and how people ought to be treated. Because there is a scripture that is also known as the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. What's up with all the inequity? What's up with the racism? right? What's up with discriminating between, oh, the them and the us? What's really going on with that? You really don't have compassion? You really can't put yourself in another place and feel for somebody, or if it might be you? Well, this is a problem. Cultural competency. You can only cultural competency the mess out of somebody and beat them on the head with it, and trauma-informed care so much. If it's not in you, it's in you. If you don't get it, that I be blood and you do too, the training is not going to help you with that. If you don't get it that I'm breathing oxygen and you are too, that a bullet can stop you just like a bullet can stop me. If you really can't see that you're equal to people, no training can fix that. It's impossible.
So how do we, there's no screening for that. There's no fix for that,
It's
right?
really changing the narrative. It's this. Your education is not going to teach you what we know.
Exactly.
I posted something that says it's the I can't even quote the quote, but the wearer of the shoe knows where that pinch is.
Right.
Understand what I'm telling you? I can talk to you about you're not going to know anything about the blister in my foot. Only me. Right? It's something about having that experience. I can tell you what happened and what works and what doesn't. I can tell you what's going on in the neighborhood with the neighbors and how many phone calls I'm getting because the systems with an S are dropping the ball.
So outside of
Suzette too. Suzette can help somebody navigate through it all and try to push and help communication go where communication ain't happening, and get on the mic and talk about that it still ain't working. That's what we do.
How not just caseworkers, not just police, but really across the board, because we are in an education space where there are a lot of advocates who don't have lived experience. How can policy advocates and others, right, people that are watching right now, people who are sort of on the sidelines, maybe trying to get engaged, how can they work better with people who have lived experience?
Please let me take that first and then I'll pass the mic. First of all, do it. Bring us into spaces like this. Let's have conversations. Let's partner. Find out what are we working on? What are we advocating for? What do we recommend? And go make policy out of it. Why not? Building a policy. You can build it from what we tell you. And if you want to know, oh, well, what do you think the solution is for this? And let's have a discussion about it. I can pull together at least, 30 probably lived experience advocates into a room. If you really want to, you really want to. I need you to know that after being on Zoom and going to a conference and seeing like the legislative people that I work with, policy analysts that I work with, I should call them analysts, legislative analysts, policy analysts that I work with on Zoom. These are the people that I got emotional about. These are people that move my heart. Why? From partnering with them, because whatever it is that I'm saying, they have the policy lingo down. And I know that y'all are advocates just like me. I know these are my best partners. These are my best teammates. These are my best allies, are the policy and legislative analysts that are in my life right now. That's what I am experiencing. And so, yes, there is a togetherness. And if you don't have somebody lived experience in your life, get some. We're available. Suzette would love to inform your policy. And I'm sure Kim Reeder, with your recent experiences, has information to inform policy.
Absolutely. I found for myself, it was so hard to find resources. I couldn't find the help that I needed at DPSS or throughout the charities that are associated with LAHSA, the Los Angeles Housing Services Authority. I was turned away again and again and again. And I had worked as an advocate and an activist in democratic politics for a long time. So I had advocacy skills, and I was able to get support from city council offices, county offices, and I kept hitting barriers with the charities, the nonprofits that are contracted with LAHSA. Because as an unaccompanied woman, a woman without a dependent child, I didn't qualify for much. I'm not mentally ill. I don't have any substance abuse problems. And I found, I needed a DPSS, a CalWorks type program for individuals. But the CalWorks program in California is for people with dependent children only. At LAHSA's not really set up to help. Oh, my light just went out. It's not really set up to help low acuity homeless. And I had gotten out of a domestic violence and intimate partner violence relationship. So I was at, my lowest point, completely traumatized. And, I found that the homeless service providers, they say they practice trauma-informed care, but I didn't really experience it. Although over time I did find help, and little by little things got better. But I think, there are many different ways that people fall into homelessness, and we need different pathways out. I needed to get to affordable housing much more quickly, and I'm in situations now where, some of my case managers have people on their caseload where one person might be schizophrenic and struggling through the mental health system, where I'm trying to get back up on my feet and get a job, where someone else might be struggling with addiction. And there's so many, we're not the unhoused, we're not a monolithic group. And a lot of times it seems like the programs are geared towards very specific people and circumstances, and they're quite rigid. And I needed something with maybe some more flexibility.
Thank
So
you, Kim.
I think maybe hearing many different voices as to how people became unhoused and then became housed again. And in truth, there's no way we can talk about housing, the housing crisis, or homeless services without talking about race, without talking about class, without talking about gender. And a lot of times, we're coming at things from different ways, and historically things have played out differently for people. And I think we need to hear many different voices and find consensus, and all help to lift each other up and to expand services. We need more interim housing, more affordable housing, more housing beds for the mentally ill. We need to realize more abundant housing.
Thank you, Kim. Suzette?
I'm so sorry, I've forgotten the question.
Sorry, I went on.
Yeah, no worries. We were talking about sort of, in addition to caseworkers, in addition to police, et cetera, how can everyone else in this space work better with people who have lived experience being unhoused?
Well, as it relates to us who are unhoused or who were unhoused, and what lived expertise actually means, in my opinion, I wrote poetry about it, and how people end up coming to a place called Skid Row, and they come here as interns. We come here as advocates. We work daily while in the thick of it. And while they're working on their college degree, they use our work as their theses, all while we labor for free. And as they climb the ladder and they move up the ranks, they become a member of the elite think tank, and they move from a corner office to they move from a cubicle to a corner office with a view, and they become labeled with an expert point of view. In the meantime, we're still struggling, and our expertise then gets used as drama rather than quantified for the but again, this is also part of the commodifying. So what we've ended up doing with the way that the system is run, with the systemic barriers of inequality within the system, we've created almost like a slave plantation mentality or dynamic, because we've made the people who have been through who know the challenges firsthand, we've commodified them as commerce so that everybody else gets to have their funding. And then when they have their funding, then, we become commerce for them to be able to continue on getting that funding. And therefore, there's no equity in the game of this, right? We have to hustle our way, to really create spaces within this whole paradigm. I literally, I started what now is like my national platform, but it became a hashtag because I was so triggered and traumatized. We can no longer talk about equality empowerment while continuing to enforce inequities, because I was sitting on a national board here in Skid Row in regards to improve the quality of life and wellness of women living in poverty. I was one of 3 women appointed to the board. And it was all these major big wigs within the system, from academia to healthcare executives to, nonprofits, so on and so forth. And this was approximately 2014, 15. I was walking around with my Section 8 voucher around about 2015. And I had volunteered everywhere, and I was volunteering for this, and we were literally being asked to provide assistance and resources, and we were basically like being given like a sandwich or what have you. I had to advocate that we be paid a stipend, and after me advocating for several months, they finally agreed to give us a $25 Target gift card, like one card every 3 months. And it really, and I was walking around with my Section 8 voucher then. And what I learned from that is that, as long as I was playing within the system realm of what made people feel comfortable, and I was providing the information that they needed, then I was good. But then once I stepped back and said, I need help. You can't just use me for what you need me for. I need help. I need housing, because literally me moving my life forward was dependent upon me getting this housing. And so, and I remember folks saying to me, running systems, well, what, Suzette, you think I can just put you at the head of, that I can just create housing for you? And I was like, whoa, I'm, me internally, I was like, whoa, I realized that, I've been thinking that we were colleagues, that we were equal in this. And I'm seeing, no, you see me as literally like I'm an entire welfare whore who thinks she has the right to something. And so that really set a precedence for me, and really how I needed to really and how advocacy is literally, and how they see us, and then how we come into this. It literally, I've learned that if I'm silent in this work, then I am helping those who have perpetuated the system to run the way that it is. I am being complicit and how they continue to allow things to run as they are, and how they also further harm me, and how I internalize the trauma that I'm already going through, because this is trauma, dealing with these issues, these systemic barriers of inequality, and how the system is laid out. It's literally trauma, and literally, like, for me, for instance, like, I literally have had to I've literally had to make a way out of no way, because the system was never really there to catch me nor to save me. It never was. And again, like I lived 5 years on $221 per month GR. I now live on Social Security, you know, approximately $500, $500 to $600 per month. And you know, Tiffany can tell you that, you know, we're doing some of the fight as far as, you know, fighting for Social Security, equity and Social Security, you know, the fact that, you know, we're living on public benefits and living in public housing and so on and so forth. And as we try and advocate, you know, we're being penalized for therefore for trying to advocate. And again, these spaces are created where, you know, a lot of people are making 6-figure salaries, and then we're lucky if, you know, we get that little stipend there, and oh, we better be grateful for that, you know, that Tiffany, little stipend that then will, and then in turn, then we will, you know, basically then be penalized for, and our Social Security or whatever benefits that we're receiving then gets, you know, really put in a very precarious situation.
Tiffany, did you have a comment on that?
I was agreeing.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was a
like, and then where it is gone.
Yeah.
I want to say before we switch over to SSI, I do want to say I think we are going to cover how we got housed, right?
Yes.
Can I shift to that? Is that okay? Or
yeah, we can. Actually, that was the next question.
Okay,
can
good.
you share a little bit how you found housing? I know Kim shared a little bit, but we can go into a little bit more detail. We do have about 24 minutes left.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So so after this 5 years of being in this toxic, dysfunctional relationship, I've started trying to break up, and it took like 7 months, and around 7 months of back and forth. So this is like stable for 5 years, and then a back and forth dance for like 7 months, right? Because this is how the DV relationships are. This is the spiral that ends in you leave, you die, you stay. I mean, this is what other option is, right? And so in me attempting to leave and doing this back and forth, this is the thing where it's like worse than before kind of thing. So anyway, I go to DPSS. Can you reinstate my cash and food stamps, please? And by the way, I was crying, sunglasses on, everything, praying that I get a woman, and I did. And I told her that I've been trying to get away from this guy. I have no idea why I keep going back or what that's about. So I filled out some paperwork, and they referred me to a DV agency. So I was listening to Kim say she didn't get help. So here I go, Kim, I got help. DPSS is a part of my beautiful testimony, okay? And so they put me under something called NSA, which is Needs Special Assistance. So instead of just as a person with no husband, no children, instead of being under where you're on for 9 months, off for 3 months, on for 9 months, off for 3 months, that's how they do it, and you got to look for work. NSA is Needs Special Assistant. They have me file under mental health so that I can go have DV services. So where I had DV services, I also applied for housing. So I stayed in my DV services for 5 years, but 2.5 years in is when I got my housing. And so I got a phone call and filled out my paperwork. But Shelter Plus Care, you need like a disability or a mental health to attach to it so that if you're taking care of that, you can get the services. Well, it wasn't in mental health services. So I went over to where I was in mental health services. It was like, can you give me my records? Now here I go read my records, like, and they don't know what they're talking about my mental health. You know how we will talk mess, right? Like, really? Is that what you have? Well, where'd you get, you know, whatever, all that. So I took it to my regular doctor. Dr. such and such, will you fill out my homeless paperwork based on these records from the mental health provider? And so she did. And this is how I got into housing. And so it was a 4-month process. So let's talk about low vulnerability. Low vulnerability. I know you're making that face, but we go from 2.5 years of applying to 8 to 12 places. Applying to 8 to 12 places, 2.5 years getting one phone call, okay, there's a spot for you, you're next on the waiting list, come over here, and then a 4-month process. only to be told, this is 2015 now, only to be told, this is at the turn of the year, oh, the VI SPDAT is here. It wasn't called CES yet. Oh, the VI SPDAT is here, and we need to score you. So then LAMP, people concerned, was LAMP. Now, you ain't gonna qualify. So the supervisor went to this is still the Section 8 office. It's like the cousin of Section 8 is what I call it. Went there and said, can you don't run her through the VI SPDAT? Because she started this process in October. And so I got my keys February. If I had to do this CES VI SPDAT, I would not have qualified for my keys, and I needed them.
Can you
So where I
describe
was,
those acronyms?
coordinated entry system. So there's a
CES.
coordinated entry system, and who knows what VI SPDAT is VI SPDAT. That's what it is. VISPDT, something like that. I don't know what it stands for, but it is a scoring system. It's a vulnerability. It's changing right now. This is shifting away from certain things, and this is the whole training. I'm not getting any details, but basically the more vulnerable you are. So you want to be like, I've never been arrested. Nope, I've never done a drug. Nope, never had a deviant relationship. Nope, all the stuff you want to run and hide from. If you don't talk about that and be honest with a stranger that you don't know, you really expect somebody to disclose to a stranger all your business. I'm just meeting you. I'm walking in to do an intake. Oh yeah, I was molested. Oh yeah, I was this. I did this. Yep, arrested 15 times. Yep, take my score all the way up. This is really not what people are doing. People are more hiding, more secretive. So then it turns into like, this thing has been known to be racist. There's research on that. But how's a computer racist? Crazy, right? So I forgot the question.
How did you find housing? But
okay,
we're getting up on time here.
So I did get my keys on 2 days before Valentine's. I consider that my Valentine gift 2015.
Congratulations.
And this is through reverse discrimination and navigating all that. So I do get it, Kim, as far as, okay, here I am. I'm this person. I might be walking around here looking privileged, but does that mean that you're really going to let me be on these streets by myself? You understand what I'm telling you? So I get it.
And I want to get into gender since it's Women's History Month. So Kim, if you could give us a little bit more, just 2 more minutes of your story that you started with at the beginning on how you found housing.
Well, I was housed just recently. Sorry, my light keeps going out. On an emergency housing voucher with the County of Los Angeles, City of Santa Monica. I started in the City of Los Angeles though, and that housing voucher was overlooked at LASA, or so I was told. I did have domestic violence rapid rehousing. That didn't work though. My funding was downtown with Downtown Women's Center, but I'm on the other side of town and there's no domestic violence contract in this service provider area. So the lead agency, which was St. Joseph Center, and also the other agency here, the People Concern, wouldn't help me with my rapid rehousing on this side of town. And I was in a situation similar to what Suzette had said, where I was told I needed to go downtown to Skid Row to get the help and services I need. And I thought, how does that help me or anyone on Skid Row who's already competing for limited resources? Plus, I had my medical infrastructure here. I was a surgical candidate at the time. So I stuck my claim here and I said, no, I'm staying here. And my bigger thing was I kept trying to advocate for myself to be able to work and study from shelter home, which you can't do in a congregate space. So I kept advocating for my right and my ability to go back to work. And I got to tell you, I was kicked in the teeth. I was kicked when I was down. I was stabbed in the back. I have never had a harder time in my life just trying to convince people, hey, I'm just trying to get back up on my feet, get back to work, get my life going again. And I found the more I advocated for myself, in some ways the worse it got initially, but I have no problem speaking truth to power, and I just kept advocating for myself
Thank you, Kim.
over and over again. And I will continue to advocate. I will continue to advocate for other people. And I will head up to Sacramento and continue to advocate.
Oh, I
because
can't wait to go to Sacramento with you.
Well, I mean, the problem is just so overwhelming, and it's truly tragic. It's affecting so many people, and no one should live on the street.
Suzette, 2 minutes
Wow.
on how you found housing, because I have one question that's specific to Women's History Month that I want to get us into.
Sure. So when I initially came here, I was staying at the Rest Hotel. I remember going to Fala's and buying a pink blanket, and I had books, and the caseworkers started coming to my room like at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they saw that I had pink blankets and a book and books, and they were outraged. And I said, "Pink blankets, books? You're getting too comfortable here. You need to go." And so they were going to throw me out on the streets. They were going to make me have to go to Midnight Mission, Union Rescue Mission. I was scared to death because the women at the dining hall at Downtown Women's Center would tell horror stories about some of these places. But anyway, so then when I ended up moving to so they were gonna put me at a hotel that was literally right on 5th Street where all the shootings were happening. They were gonna put me at the hotel literally where all the shootings were happening during that time period. And it was a smoking environment, and I'm like totally anti-smoking. And they said, "Suzette, are you gonna complain if we put you here?" And I said, so then they said, "Okay, we'll give you one more chance, and you better take this, and I'm never going to help you again." And I mean, this is literally how these housing caseworkers specialists were talking. And so they put me at the La Jolla Hotel, and the La Jolla Hotel is on 6th and somewhere down that way. So in Gladys, over by Gladys. And anyway, the La Jolla Hotel, there was all this like ruckus going on outside the building and inside the building. And so people were telling me like, it's really, really dangerous there and blah, 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 blah. But that's where I ended up living for the next 3 years. It was a 100-year-old plus dilapidated building, no air conditioning, no elevator. I had chronic health conditions then. But I did have a caseworker that I was meeting with at least once a month. And I didn't even know until she then told me like 2 years into it that she was applying for me to get a Section 8 voucher. And so I got the Section 8 voucher. Long story short, she, told me that I had like 9 months to find a place. This is when I was volunteering for almost every nonprofit here in Skid Row, including Downtown Women's Center, where I was sitting on this part of the SCALE project. And so, long story short, I reached out to everyone, like the Department of Mental Health. Their housing specialist told me, Stacy Kemp, "Oh, I'm going to take you out and I'm going to treat you like, I'm your realtor." She did nothing. She did the complete opposite of that. She helped me with no housing at all. They wouldn't help me. Jerry Jones, who I was just getting to know then, was working for Inner City Law Center. He heard me crying for help at a community meeting, LACPC, and he passed me a note and said, "Hey, I'm new to LA, but I've got an old beat up car, but I'm happy to go around and help you." And he was one of my initial saving grace. He and Anthony Ruffin, who worked for Housing Works initially, and then Anthony went on vacation, and then I picked up with Jerry, and Jerry took me around, and then but nobody would help me again. And so literally one morning I woke up and I thought, "Oh, there's that woman at City Hall who said she wanted to help me with my women's advocacy work." And it was Sarah Hernandez. And she was literally an attorney for Jose Huizar's office at that time. And I sent she and her assistant a message, and they immediately contacted me back, and they planned for me to they scheduled me for a meeting the following Tuesday. The following Tuesday was my birthday. And Jerry Jones and I met at City Hall. We were in closed chambers in the conference room of Jose Huizar. I was literally in tears because now I'm days away from losing my Section 8 voucher because so many months had already passed by, and the people who said they were going to help me did not help me. And so now I'm pleading to this attorney in City Hall for assistance from her. And I will tell you, long story short, she ended up working as a caseworker for me. She was willing to go and see apartments. She made phone calls, she sent emails, and long story short, she found me the studio apartment that I have here in a Skid Row Housing Trust building in Skid Row. And I had to plead for a bed, and I got that apartment, and then I got and then Downtown Women's Center finally agreed to order me a bed. The bed was and that was on a Saturday. I met with the caseworker on a Saturday. The following Tuesday morning, I had a major surgery, a 6-hour surgery, and I was on the surgery bed when my bed was being delivered to my studio apartment here, and a friend of mine waited at my apartment for its delivery and to put it together. That's how close everything ran together.
What an incredible story, and that just warms my heart.
I tried to surmise it, so I left things out, so I tried.
I talked to Sarah earlier today. To those watching, Sarah is our newest Los Angeles Community College trustee. So she's still doing really incredible work. So I want to take the last 9 minutes that we have, actually a little bit less than that, because I have a rapid fire question at the end. In the housing space, pro-housing, YIMBY, if you want to call it, there has been this long-standing, we talked about narratives today, right? That we need to get all of our stories out. The narrative has to change because it's still very much that, in certain spaces, people think that people who are unhoused don't want to work, when there are a million reasons why someone finds themselves unhoused. In the sort of YIMBY pro-housing space, it is seen as a very white, male, tech bro, Silicon Valley, like build everywhere type movement, when we have 3 beautiful women with lived experience who are here fighting for more housing. Being a woman, how have you experienced navigating this housing space?
May I just answer real quickly? So I want to say that I lived in Silicon Valley, Northern California, for almost 20 years. I worked for startups. I was there for startups and dot-com booms, busts, and all that kind of stuff. And I'll be 59 in May. So I have literally worked most of my adult life. Yes, I'm that old woman. I'm that old ass grown woman. Yes. So that's one of the things. And I didn't end up on public assistance until I was 47 years of age. So I want to blow some of those myths there. And like Kim, I was that person who was trying so hard to, initially find a job. I was working with a man to buy a home, a loan officer at the time that when I lost my job back home in Arizona. So I was still trying to get back in the game because I wanted to be able to purchase a home. And long story short, like Kim was saying, like the harder I tried, the more everything just kept falling. It's like I finally just had to, when I lost, when my car went and I lost my Chase bank account, like I was so destitute at that point. I was so broken that I just had to leave everything to chance and God. And so literally me now trying to move back in towards being self-sustaining and all of that. I'm in school now, so I'm studying at Arizona State University in community advocacy, social policy. Also trying to finish my health science education degree. And then But I have to say, I'm also a trauma survivor. And this has been very traumatizing, what I've been through just in the last decade alone. And trauma is a day-to-day. You know, I live in a Skid Row Housing Trust building. I don't even know if you all know, have been hearing in the news about what's going on with, and so I deal with trauma on a daily basis. I've taken 2 B12 vitamins today and my anxiety pill. My anxiety level has been so high. I lost my mother Monday, marked a month since my mother passed away. And so I'm dealing with a lot of, I'm dealing with a lot of trauma on so many different levels. And that's one of the things that people don't understand. They don't understand civilian trauma. They don't they think that, everything's supposed to look like this big pathology. Because like, I've
Suzette,
heard Tiffany say, and I have said, you get a little cute outfit and you put a little lipstick on and, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. People don't understand what trauma looks like. They don't understand intergenerational trauma, which I have,
Suzette,
from my family lineage.
This is what trauma looks
Okay,
like.
I'll shut up.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Suzette, no, we've got 5 more minutes. So I want to let Tiffany.
Quick question. Kim, is your homelessness directly related to the DV relationship?
That was the last straw.
Okay, so
The last straw.
some advocacy for you that I want to pull you into. The next cohort I want to pull you into with the Domestic Violence and Homeless Services Coalition.
We'll make sure that we connect. Do you want to answer the question
We'll definitely connect after this. And I want to talk to Suzette too after this.
So before we do all of this, I'm not going to answer that question. Sorry.
What was the question?
Sorry, not sorry.
How do you as a woman,
excuse me, let me answer this other question that's more important that we're not going to get to. If you want to know what you can support right now, I'm going to tell you.
That's my last fire question.
Okay, well, I don't know if we'll have time for it. So whatever you want to do, go ahead. Since you won't let me, go ahead.
Kim, do you want to answer about your experience as a woman navigating the space in 1 minute?
Navigating the advocacy space or navigating
advocacy space?
I'm new to it. I understand the concerns that it is mostly male dominated, but yet here we are talking about it. So we're here. We're part of that movement as well.
And then my rapid fire question is, what is one policy that you would like anyone watching this, whether it's a current legislation right now or just a space that you want people to take away from this, that you want to champion, want people to advocate for? Tiffany, why don't you go first?
Tiffany?
Okay. Nothing is holding me back as a woman to answer that question real quick. And then to support this SSI federal proposal, which, hey, I started advocating for free, then like Suzette, getting tossed a $25 gift cards, then whatever, consulting, now I'm working on all of this type of stuff. But there's a penalty to tap back into your trauma, speak truth to power, and help to affect change and end homelessness. There's a penalty with your cash and food stamps. There's a penalty with your medical. There's a penalty with your housing. There's a penalty with just income and benefits in general. So the first bite out of this big thing. So for the local people, we need to hit up the city and county and state on this. But right now, we're going after federally SSI to say, do not take. If I got $300 this month for homeless advocacy from my lived experience, don't penalize me, don't take it, don't touch it, ignore it, you don't even see it. So this is what we're working on. Again, LAHSA, LAHSA.org/SSI is a support form. And then Suzette is the one who raised the issue because of personal experiences. So LAHSA, along with the National Coalition for the Homeless, LAHSA is Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. So we have partnered together to tackle this, and Suzette, myself, and the legislative team and a couple other lived experience people are about to be shopping this around to Congress. We need a sponsor and 30 co-sponsors. And then the second thing, I know you said one, but right here is local. It's the City Commission on Lived Experience in Homelessness. It's Council File 19-10. You just look it up, Los Angeles, Council File 19-10. Council Bill 19-1020. You can familiarize yourself with that motion. Best way to familiarize yourself, if you ask me, is to go straight to the written public comments, and read them. And then if you have that policy mind and you catch it and you see the value of lived experience, please write in to show your support so that city council members can vote yes the next time this goes around, because you need an advisory body to run whatever you're dealing with and the decisions that you make. You need an advisory body. You need lived experience decision makers with decision-making power. But we'll take that advisory body for now, right? Which is what the commission would be. And so any way you can support either one of those two things would be a blessing for people who need hope, who have hope and don't need it to be killed by people not treating them right.
Thank you, Tiffany. Suzette, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I concur with everything that Tiffany said. Thank you so much. And then I just want to say that, the Governor Newsom signed a bill last year, SB 914, recognizing unaccompanied single adult women as one of the fastest growing subpopulations into homelessness. And I just want to raise the intersectionality of that, of how Black middle-aged elderly women we track as a #1 demographic displaced into poverty and homelessness decade after decade. And that's the #1 demographic of women. And we are one of the #1 demographics. But so we have to create some type of infrastructure. The bills that the advocacy and the needs that Tiffany mentioned are some of those infrastructures that really can help empower, those of us who fall into the subpopulation. And there's I sit on the LA County Racial Equity Steering Committee. We are prioritizing the 67 recommendations currently that came out of the Black People Experiencing Homelessness Ad Hoc Committee work. And so we are trying to put those towards an action plan. And then lastly, I'll just say that National Alliance in Homelessness is starting a campaign because criminalization in homelessness is at an all-time high. And so we really have to create or use our narratives to really change, be systems changes, and how criminalization is now and homelessness is now back on the high. On a federal level, national level. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Kim, anything else?
Let me get in here very quickly. I have a big ask. Housing is a human right is proposed as an amendment to our state constitution. It is California Assembly Bill 10. Please call your assemblyman, call your assemblywoman, and ask them to support this bill. This is the legal underpinning so that we can begin to fix this problem for real and have accountability and measurable results.
Suzette, are you concurring?
I'm just going to take this. This is a poem that I wrote for my women's empowerment group when I was living on GR at $221 a month. And I just wanted to create a space where women could come to and feel like Cinderella, minus the evil stepmother and sister. And it's called Standing Tall for Dignity and Equality. And I'm not a liberated woman. I'm just a woman who yearns to live free. And I wish to live free from the bondage of inequality.
So I'm
just so longing for equality that is yet to be. And we have come far, but how far we have yet to come, because we as women, we're still striving for our equal sum. And whether you're sitting in the White House, Donald Trump Plaza, up in Beverly Hills, to the lows of the Appalachians and the rundown sawmills or the Catskills, whether your zip code is in Manhattan, New York, or right here in Skid Row, human dignity should not come at the price for only those who can afford concierge prices and exquisite means. And I humbly tell you, my voice, it is my power. Indeed, it's what fuels me each day. In fact, it gives me the strength which surpasses none. It allows me to be more of my equal son. But please know, I am just one voice and I've won no battles. The battles are yet to be won. This voice is just another gift God gave to me so I can stand tall for dignity and equality. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Suzette. That was a beautiful ending to this evening. Thank you all for taking the time to do this, to share your stories and to continue to advocate for this community, for your community, for our community. This is our Los Angeles, whether you're watching this near or far, everyone deserves to be housed, and we will continue that fight. Josh, did you have anything else?
Let's get these Black people off the streets.
That's right. Thank you for that, Tiffany. No, thank you so much, everybody. All four of you, you've been amazing tonight. and I know that the audience has enjoyed it. So thank you all very much. Please have a safe and wonderful and maybe dry evening. We'll see. But we'll see.
Define dry.
You know, it depends on where you're at. It's getting kind of rainy up here in Los Angeles these days. So, you know, who knows? Who knows what it's going to be.
Happy Women's History Month. And
Yes.
I value all of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for
us.
the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good night, all.